Okay, so now we continue with this slide. Okay, what is a computer? Okay, so being a modern day kid, okay, you must have used, seen, or read about computers. Okay, so this is because they are an integral part of our everyday existence. Okay, so be it school, banks, shops, railway stations, hospital, or your own home, all right, computers are present everywhere. Okay, so it making our work easier and faster for us. Okay, as they are such integral or essential parts of our life. Okay, we must know what they are and how they function. Okay, so let us start with defining the term of the computer formally. Okay, so the literal meaning of computer is a device that can calculate. However, modern computers can do a lot more than calculate. Are you agree with me? Okay, so what is a computer? Computer is an electronic device that receives input, stores or processes the input as per user instructions, and also provides output in desired format. Okay, all right. So, uh, we go to the next slide. It's about the basic operations, okay, of a computer. Okay, so from keeping in touch with friends to performing financial transactions, examples, okay, these days we rely on computers for just about everything. Okay, with personal computers as advanced as they are, all right, it's easy to forget the fundamentals that have made modern technology possible. Okay, computers do all the things they do because they are able to perform these four basic operations. Okay, basically, all right, computer does four basic operations that are input, output, process, and storing. Okay, so uh, we go to the next slide. Okay, so this slide, okay, we go detail about the four basic operations of the computer. All right, as I said earlier, you have four, that is an input, process, output, and storage. Okay, so we go one by one. Okay, so as smart as computers are, all right, they steal input from humans to tell them what to do and provide the data to process. Okay, computers today accept input from a variety of devices. The two you are probably most familiar with is include the keyboard and the mouse. Okay, so input devices on a computer vary depending on the type of computing device in question. For desktop and laptop personal computers, input is typically provided through a keyboard and mouse. Okay, so most keyboards used in the West adopt a QWERTY layout, QWERTY layout for text input as well as number pads and other function keys. Okay, so a mouse may be provided as part of a laptop in the form of a touchpad just below the keyboard area. Okay. Alternatively, a mouse may be separate component which plug into the computer and controls applications through movements and button clicks. Okay. All right. And then some smartphones and tablet plus PC, all right, use touch screen interface in which the screen is used for both display and user interaction. Okay, all right. So the next slide, okay, is about the second uh, process, that is a processing. Okay, so data processing is the most basic function of a computer. Okay, remember that. Okay, this function is performed by the central processing unit, or we call it as a CPU, which consists of electronic circuits that can read and execute code instructions to perform a wide range of tasks. Okay, from performing complex mathematical calculations to sorting, the entries in the database. Okay, so this CPU actually can be seen as the brain of the computer. Okay, accepting input data and instructions, execute commands, storing results in memory, and sending data to output devices. It controls the sequence of operations and the use of data storage. Okay, so in addition to the CPU, some of the processing function of a computer may be performed by an arithmetic logic unit, or we call it as ALU, which this ALU will perform arithmetic and binary logic operations, or a graphic processing unit that they call it as a GPU, that is responsible for creating graphical output that displays the data in visual form. Okay, so gaming computers are heavily depends on the GPU, all right, to generate the complex dynamic graphics, especially 3D graphics. Okay, all right. So actually, in a simple way, okay, computers have the natural ability to process data using a central processing unit, or we call it as a CPU, that also known as the processor. Okay, maybe you have heard about the what is a processor. Okay, actually the processor will refer it to the CPU. So this device is a, as I said earlier, is a brain of the computer. Okay, so this CPU or this processor is contained on a single chip that we call it as a microprocessor. Okay, so inside this CPU, inside this processor, it has two basic components, that is control unit and arithmetic logic unit, or we call it as a ALU. Okay, so I simplify again. Okay, so this CU or control unit tell the rest of the computer system how to carry out a program instructions. It directs the movements of electronic signal inside your computer. Okay, while ELU or arithmetic logic unit will perform two types of operation, that is arithmetic operations and logical operations. Okay, what is arithmetic operation? It involves basic math such as addition, subtraction. All right, so addition and subtraction, while logical operation will compare between two numbers. Okay, so that is about the processing. Okay, so how about storage? Okay, so one of the most useful function of a computer is data storage. Okay, so computers will not be as useful as they are if they were unable to remember anything. Okay, so so the next basic operations, okay, is a storage will allow the computer to recall previously entered data and store information. These include documents, music, log files, software, and the operating system, or we call it as OS. Okay, so besides storing data that has been input through peripherals, okay, so computers also need a way to save the results of data processing. Okay, all this is accomplished through peripheral storage devices, which may be internal or external. Okay, so internal storage include RAM, random access memory, which is used during processing and temporary in nature. Okay, so information that's stored inside RAM memory is not retained if the computer is turned off. Persistence, okay, long-lasting data or permanent storage is provided by external devices like CDs, DVDs, hard drive, and flash drive. Okay, all right. So the next process, okay, is a output. Okay. All right. So once a computer receive and process the data, okay, it output is as an information. In computing, information refers to any data presented in a useful form. Okay, so you need to remember that data is a raw or unprocessed fact. Okay, so after you process the data, okay, after you process the data, we will call it as an information. Okay, so the most common output devices, okay, will include monitors, printers, and also speakers. Okay, so output devices in computers typically include visual and auditory elements. Okay, the main output component in a computer tends to be the monitor, which presents a graphical display to users. Okay, or we call it as a soft copy. Okay, so the monitor may be separate element connected to the computer through cables or may be part of the same hardware items as in a laptop or tablet PC. Okay, and audio output may be provided through built-in speakers which form part of the computer or monitor element. Okay, alternatively, audio output can be captured through headphone plugged into an audio output